Every Night is Game Night, episode 36, Solo Variants. Hey everybody, welcome back to Every Night is Game Night. This is episode 36. This is Anthony, once again with Jason.
Yo, my peoples, what is up?
Alright guys, so this week we're going to be looking at solo games, but they're not actually solo games. They are multiplayer games with solo variants. Some of them official, some of them not so much. So we're going to be looking at 4 of those and letting you guys know how the systems work and what's good about them, what's not, etc. Whether they're worth checking out and printing out those rules.
There are these are really, really popular games. We're not going to be doing descriptions of the games themselves because they're super popular. Chances are you already know, or they're very easily available. But we will describe the variants and whether they're worth a play or not.
Absolutely, yeah. So if any of these you haven't played before, you don't know the rules, you can hop on BGG or YouTube and brush up on it real quick. But just give you a quick rundown of what works, what doesn't, and solo variants are kind of cool because usually they come out of somebody wants to play their favorite game at home and there's no way to do that. You guys all know what that's like as solo gamers, and they make it up. So some are great, some get a lot of development time, some get a lot of people jumping in to help out. The first one we're going to talk about was actually developed by the company, so it's official, unofficial, official. So it didn't come in the box. But you get a fancy printout if you want. But yeah, it's kind of a fun little world. If you haven't explored it yet, you'll be surprised how many games on your shelves that are not solo can be. So we'll share 4 of them that we like. Cool.
All right, let's do it. 5 tribes.
All right, we're going to jump right in with 5 tribes. So the first one, like I mentioned, this is not a fan variant. This was designed by Bruno Cathala and Terry Jolie. I'm probably saying that last name totally wrong. But it was released by Days of Wonder in 2015 as a Christmas gift. And so you can go and print it off their website. It looks nice and fancy and official. You put it in the box with the rest of the stuff like I did. And it feels a little bit more polished as a result. But a few things. First, it is rather different from the core game in terms of what you're trying to do. I'll just say that up front. The core game has a certain feel to it, and I don't think the solo variant really captures that feel. Now that happens a lot, and it happens a lot in official solo games as well. But in this case, I'm not 100% sure it really. If you like 5 tribes, I can't say you'll necessarily like the solo variant. So let's dive in and explain why. The base game setup is pretty much the same. You're going to start the game with 25 coins instead of 50. Obviously, there's no bidding or auction phase here because there's only one person. And then there's a white and a black die that you're going to need to add to the box that will be used kind of to automate for the other side. Now, there are a whole bunch of ways you can lose. You're going up against Yazid, and he is trying to do everything he can to stop you. So you have, if he collects 7 assassins, he wins, you lose. If he collects 6 djinns, he wins, you lose. If you have fewer viziers at the end of the game, he wins, you lose. And if you run out of money at any point in time and have to pay the AI, you lose. A lot of ways to lose. So getting that right out of the way. The actual gameplay, on your turn, you're going to do everything the same. But on Yazid's turn, you're going to roll the white and the black die. And the white die is going to tell you which column you're in, and the black die is going to tell you which row. And you will then take all of those meeples off of whichever tile it is, and those are given to Yazid. If it's yellow, if it's a vizier, he keeps it. If it's white, he collects them. Once you have 2 of those or 1 of those and a fakir, he takes a djinn card. Green, allow him to take resource cards from the tableau, and he'll only keep the fakirs, but he'll kind of clean that out. Blue means he will take your money. And then red, the assassins, again, if he collects 7, you just straight up lose the game. You can pay the sum of the dice numbers to go first. So you could see what he's going to be doing, and then you get to go first and clear out a space maybe. But really what you're doing this entire game is trying to mitigate the situations in which you will lose the game. So taking the fakirs out of the resource cards, selling your goods to make sure you have enough money to pay Yazid, taking all the assassins off of the tiles as quickly as possible so that he cannot just pick up 2 or 3 at a time, that have been left there by themselves, and knock you out really early in the game. The first time I played this solo, I think I lost 4 or 5 camels in.
All right.
Because I didn't manage the assassins. So he got 3 on one tile, 2 on another, and then 2 on another, and game over. So that was fun. Basically, when you put out all the meeples, you'll look at everything on the board and say, okay, that's a problem spot, that's a problem spot, that's a problem spot, and you'll just manage all that. So you're not actually playing 5 tribes. You're not like moving around, getting the combos, building the fun things that you get to do normally in the game. You're focused about 60% on stopping these bad things from happening, and the other 40% on actually scoring points. Now, there's no like point level you need to get to win. You just need to survive. But the ultimate goal is 251 victory points. That's on the super hard mode. I've never gotten there. I don't, if you're out there and you've played this and you've gotten there, let me know, because I have not. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's well made. I don't think it's a bad solo game at all. It's very interesting. It's just, as somebody who likes 5 tribes and wanted to play it at home, this is not really that. It doesn't give the same feeling. It's kind of stressful, and you can lose very quickly. So I'm a little torn on it. I don't think it's bad necessarily. I just don't necessarily enjoy it, because if I have 5 tribes out, I want to play 5 tribes.
It's almost not a variant at all. It's almost like treating the box of stuff in there as a box of stuff and doing a whole new game with it.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you're doing all the same stuff. Like on your turn, you do all the same things, but for very different reasons. If you can't manage that stuff, then you might as well not be playing. So I don't know. It's a little tough. There's just a few too many ways to lose, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah, I guess that's, out there for people. That is definitely one take on doing a variant, which is basically like redoing the whole game itself. Like not the whole game. It's still 5 Tribes-esque, like you were describing. But they're definitely, especially with the more complicated, bigger games, you can really kind of mess with the meta of the game and come up with all sorts of stuff. And I mean, if it works and you're not, I mean, it sounds like your resistance to it is that you're attached to 5 tribes. But if you're not, or if you just want to play in that space, this might be worth a look, it sounds like.
Yeah. I think it's probably, I mean, objectively, I could say it's good. It's well made. They didn't even change that much from what the game is, and it all worked. I think the rules are a page and a half, so there's not a lot of change here from like the base rules of the game. It's more the aesthetic, the feel of it, like the act of playing the game. Instead of the brain burning of how do I maximize my combo, it's the brain burning of like how do I stop him from doing this, or this, and making sure I do this and this. So it's got, if you like stressful solo games, if you want it to be hard, if you don't want to win, this is a good one. And if you want something a little bit more than the high score chase, which in the end, that's all this is. If you survive, you're just going for high score, but you have to survive to get there. So I think it works on that set.
There's a ton of resistance, and that's kind of the key for me for a high score variant. Is there needs to be some sort of resistance where I'm not just playing the game as if it's just there in front of the table. Like I'm actually making different decisions that I wouldn't make. So in terms of getting a high score, I'm making a different decision. If I'm going for the high score, I know I'd have to do this. But if I have to do that and still get a high score, then I'm happy with the high score variant. So that's cool.
Yeah, I don't mind this one at all for that. The scoring all makes sense, and it feels good when you get a higher score after fighting through all that, which I think is good. Like if you just play the game, you're like, "What's my score?" All right, was it higher than last time? A little. All right.
Yeah.
But in this case, you're like, "I didn't lose." Oh, what's my score? Okay.
Cool. I mean, 5 Tribes, not a cheap game, so if you can get a little more life out of it, then that sounds like a kind of a winner.
Yeah, I'd say give it a play, and I think it's probably very good for some people, and other people maybe won't enjoy it as much. I'm in the middle, so
All
I have
right.
a tough time with it.
So then let's hop over to a game that maybe I know a lot of gamers have. I'm not sure how many solo gamers have it because how do you play this game solo? But it's Seven Wonders. So we all know Seven Wonders, the big drafting game. A friend of mine released a video calling this a gateway game that's not really gateway because it's too complicated, but people insist it's a gateway game anyway. But there it is. I mean, at the very least, everybody, a lot of people know it. And we wonder how in the heck is a solo mode going to work. There's actually a lot of them. If you go on the BGG page, there's a lot of stabs at it. I'm going to take the one that was developed by Lines Hutter, BGG user Lines42. So the reason why I like this is because in a lot of the solo modes, they tend to make you play as the opponent. Like they make decisions as the opponent, what they would do and then what you would do. They mess it up a little bit, but that there's a lot of overhead in terms of managing the AI, which as we go through the episode, we're definitely going to kind of articulate where that is and why we want to, when we do approach solo variants, one of the things we really look for is I don't want to do a lot of work when it comes to managing that AI or managing my opponent. I just want to do my thing, and I want the opponent's turn to be as clean as possible. So this one, the opponent's turn is pretty clean. So how it works is you have your 21 cards for each age, and you split them into 3 decks. There's the left-hand player and the right-hand player, and yourself in the middle. There's 3 boards. So then you draw the middle deck to 7 cards. You reach for 1 card from the right-hand deck, 1 card from the left-hand deck. You have 9 cards in your hand now. And then you play a card to the right-hand player, yourself, and the left-hand player. And you just do it over and over again until you get to that last card, which you have to discard. So pretty simple, right? How do you determine what card gets played on each of the left-hand and right-hand player? There is a priority system. So this is not a flow chart. War gamers out there are going to be very used to flow charts. So like, this happens if then this, and there's like trees and everything. Not nearly as complicated as that. It's basically just like a program priority system. So like if you have a resource card, like in age 1, if you have a resource card in your hand, put the resource card down. If not a resource card and you have a military card, put the military card down. And it has like maybe like 7 or 8 up to 10 entries for which card to put in what scenario, and you just follow it. Like you don't argue with it. You don't say like, oh, that AI would be better served if I gave them that card. No. You just follow the priority system, put the thinking down, and that's it. And then you go through the 3 ages. So age 1, the priority system favors building resources. In age 2, the priority system favors, kind of makes that turn towards scoring points and getting combos and all that kind of stuff. And in age 3, then it's all about the scoring points. And that's really it. It's really fast to play. And I gotta say that I enjoyed it, but I came at it with a very low bar. Right? What is the lowest bar for a solo variant, right? The lowest bar for solo variant is twofold. 1, you get more use out of the game than you would have. And 2, it's an opportunity to learn the game. So using this solo variant, I am more familiar with Seven Wonders. I don't get it to the table that often. My group doesn't love it. I like it because I like the city building kind of vibe to it. So, and I'm still waiting for the app, which, to you, people who are holding up the app development. In absence of those, I can play this variant and kind of really get to know what I'm doing in Seven Wonders. I was able to do some combos and do whatever. And it's, there's moments where the computer, quote unquote, the AI, will take the card that you want and you have to kind of strategize and, use the cards that are left, right? So I was able to learn the game. Where it really comes into a problem, this variant, and I'm pretty sure that it's gonna anytime you make a solo Seven Wonders variant, it's gonna run into this problem. Is especially at age 3, you end up having to do that thinking thing that I mentioned earlier. So the age 3 systems, there's only 3 priorities. It's number 1, play a wonder. Number 2, or if you can. Number 2, play the highest scoring card that's free. Number 3, play the highest scoring card. So you got to calculate that. You got to look at what the AI has. If the AI has a bunch of brown cards and they have a guild that they can put down that scores them a lot of points, you have to account for that. But then if they have a lot of science cards or whatever it is, you have to put that guild down. You have to sit there calculating that. And that was not fun. At least that calculation part. But it isn't that bad. Once you figure out, and as you get better at the game, it kind of, just leaps into your head and becomes kind of obvious. So, what the highest scoring card is, you may have to kind of decide between 2 cards or something like that. At the end of it, I have to say, I am much better at Seven Wonders, and I liked my experience of it as far as that. A lot of overhead, a lot of kind of decision making on part of the AI, especially on later in the turn. If it was included in the base game, which that 2-player variant was included in Seven Wonders and gets knocked a lot because that was also clunky. If this came in the box, people would be pretty upset because it's like, what am I doing here? But as a fan-made solo variant and with the managed expectations, then I actually would recommend the Seven Wonders priority system by BGG user Lines 42.
Interesting. Yeah, at first I thought you were going to go like the Seven Wonders, the coin system or something. The chart on the wall, tracing it
along. Multiple AIs, and roll the dice for this, and none of that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, anytime you have to calculate stuff out like that, though, that's tough. Like, all right, well, they would take this, except they don't have this. Well, maybe they'll do this, but no, they can't do this.
And they have this, because they have the prerequisites, so that they have this prerequisite or whatever it is. And I don't think they use resources. That's one thing that the AI does well. They don't. Actually, I have to remember that. No, that is incorrect. They do use resources. I'm thinking of Seven Wonders Duel, which I'm stealing a thunder. Sorry about that, dude. They do use resources. You have to calculate out those resources, and it can be a little bit of a bear. Like I said, I go into it with managed expectations, go into it just wanting to play more Seven Wonders for practice, and then it's a worthwhile thing. I would not go out of my way to play this if you're going to be like, oh, now I can play Seven Wonders solo now. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go that far, but for what it is, I do recommend it.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like I play a lot of Euro games, multi-handed to learn them and also to like work on strategy a little bit. They're not solo at all. I'm just playing multiple, hands, multiple characters at the same time. It sounds like a way to do that and to mitigate the drafting, which is exactly what you describe. It's a lot of doing math and trying to figure out all these different things for multiple different sides at the same time, which can give you a bit of a headache. So
yeah, I mean, the priority system is, if you follow it, at least in the first 2 ages, you just do it. Like, it's that 3rd age where you have to calculate the points that really kind of trips you up a little bit, which unfortunately is where you score most of your points in Seven Wonders. Like, the first 2 rounds are really like setup. I'm going to get these resources, I'm going to get these prerequisites, and now I'm going to go boom, 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 boom. I'm going to quintuple my score. That's where the game kind of hits a little bit. But those first 2 ages, you're just doing it. So that's not so bad.
Okay. That's not too bad at all.
All right. So I stole you with thunder a little bit, but let's get to Seven Wonders Duel.
All right. So Seven Wonders Duel, it is a little similar. I mean, the basic idea here, because you're not drafting in Seven Wonders Duel, is that the AI will do one of 2 things. It will first try to build a wonder, and it does this with the architecture token, which means it can build any wonder for 2 fewer resources than it would normally. Or if it cannot build a wonder, it will just take the leftmost card available. And that's it. That's all the AI does. Very, very simple, very straightforward. It doesn't really take a ton of time. All you have to do is calculate, every round, make sure and see if they can do any of those wonders, and then activate them if they need to be activated. Once they've all been activated, and 9 times out of 10, the AI, Scott, in this case, will absolutely get all 4 out before you can get 4 out. So good luck with that. And that's it. I mean, that's all you really have to deal with in terms of the AI. You can ramp up the difficulty a little bit by giving Scott extra guild cards for endgame scoring. You can scale that based on how many you want to do. So it recommends 1 to 3 face down. You can also do that and remove them from the age 3 deck so that you have fewer options to score. So it's always nice to have kind of some difficulty range there to work with. The other thing that's interesting is he can win anyway. He can win military, science, or points. You can only win by points. So you can't just beat him down with military cards, because at first I was like, well, I don't know about that. And then I was like, actually, it's pretty easy. I just stop him from getting the military cards because he's taking the same card every time. So that makes sense. It's an interesting AI because it's just going to take whatever card you allow it to take. At any given time, you can decide, no, you can't have that card. I'm going to take it, or I'm going to trash it. But the wonders, it always gets those wonders out really fast, like really fast. Sometimes in the first age.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much guaranteed to get it by the second age, and get like cause he gets the 4 wonders, so that means you only get the 3. But if he gets it in the first age, what a dirty cheater.
Yeah, it's so that's an interesting part of it. The rest of it, though, is great. I mean, it's a good way to kind of learn the game, to learn the cards, to learn the different combinations. It doesn't really stop you from doing what you would normally do, with a few exceptions. Now, there are going to be situations in which you end up taking that leftmost card when you don't want it because, maybe he's close to military victory, or he's about to knock out some of your coins because he's just automatically going to take that card when a normal player maybe wouldn't, because it doesn't make sense. But that's not every time. And it is something you do get a little bit of a control over, because you can look in advance and see which cards he's likely to take. So you can program that out a little bit. So I don't know. I like this one. It's quick. When I first got 7 Wonders Duel, I actually played it solo to learn it and just played both sides because you're not like actually drafting. And that was kind of fun. This is a little bit more fun, I think, because I don't have to play both sides. So I don't have to build 2 tableaus. So I think it's pretty cool. And by the way, that was BGG user James Humphreys has put this up. So making sure we get credit out there.
That's right. So then the 7 Wonders, I'm calling that the priority bot. That definite approach to doing solo. I've played Artifacts Incorporated. That's another one that has like a priority system bot as a opponent, where it's just a list of things, and then you just kind of do if A, if not A, B, if not B, C, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's a cool way to do it, especially in a point scoring Euro E type scenario. It kind of it depends on the game. If it can sometimes make really dumb decisions, or sometimes you have a lot of overhead. It works. This the 7 Wonders Duel, I actually call this the cheater bot because. Because it what happens is it builds, but it doesn't really use resources. Like, I mean, it has the bot gets like the bonus token that gives the resource discount, which is basically letting it build for free because it's gonna get the resources it needs to build. So that's how that works. So it cheats. And another cheater bot that I played with a lot before the app came out was the Race for the Galaxy in the Rebels vs. Imperium thing. That's also what I call a cheater bot, because it'll put like the way that game works, it'll just put out cards and stuff, but it doesn't have to pay for what it's putting out. That's kind of the essence of the cheater bot. It doesn't have to pay resources for scoring. So in Race for the Galaxy, you can play a 6-point card and like, boom, oh look, I got a 6-point card, ha ha. Or I'm gonna produce 10 things right now, and 7 Wonders Duel is kind of the same thing. So it's interesting. It does. I don't know how you felt, Anthony. Like, I don't know if you just kind of gave up and let him have the 4 wonders, but I do try to at least deny it resources so it can't get those wonders so fast. So it changes my gameplay, but what I find is it changes my gameplay in one way. Like, I'm not getting that tactical experience because I know what it's doing every single time. I know what it wants to do every single time because it's cheating to do it. And I'm trying to stop it from cheating. So that's not quite playing the game in like the richest way. Like, I think a true good solo variant opens you up to playing a game in all the ways in which it's meant to be played. And with the 7 Wonders Duel, if maybe I could decide to not care about how fast it gets wonders and just kind of do my thing. But if I do care, then I'm kind of locked into a certain set of decisions. So, I mean, I'm not saying this as a criticism per se, just as what this episode is all about is kind of talking about not just talking about the games themselves, but the ways that different solo variants can kind of do it in order to bring that solo experience to the table, and the benefits and the pitfalls of each different way. So for this game, I think that the tactics are kind of dictated to you by how fast, by the way in which the bot cheats. But still, I do agree with you. I prefer the Seven Wonders Duel bot to the Seven Wonders bot, if that's worth anything. It's definitely kind of a little bit of a higher standard than the Seven Wonders bot.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit easier to do because you're only replacing one person, and not really any mechanisms. I agree though. Like anytime you're playing the game differently than you would normally, it's gonna have interesting repercussions. And there's been times when I let the bot in this just have the wonders. Depends on what the wonders are, I guess. And other times when I'm like, well, see what those wonders are, and I'm like, well, that's a lot of resources. I could probably stop that for at least one age, maybe two. So it's not fully decided for you, but yeah, 90% of the time he's getting all four. So kind of just give up on it immediately. Like, no.
Yeah. So then, so I mean, it depends. Like, I think you can get your full range of tactics in if you decide to not care about that particular thing, which can be good. But for me, I guess maybe because I play that game because I love the wonders, maybe I'm just have the theme in there too much. It's like, no, the Colossus of Rhodes, I must have it. It's gonna throw away my precious wonder. I get caught in that trap a little bit, but maybe that's a tactic thing. But so yeah, I mean, if you tell me that you're able to have the full Seven Wonders duel experience while playing against the cheater bot, then that's something that definitely people should really look out for. Okay. All right. So then we're gonna get to the last one, and this is Takenoko, and we're gonna spend a little bit of time on Takenoko because the way that the game, the bot that was created for this game approaches it is the Automa approach, and it's kind of a new thing, and I think it's kind of where solo games are going. So the Automa approach was developed by Morten Peterson and his factory called the Automa Factory. However, he did not develop this particular bot. What he did was he kind of put out a system, a bunch of principles, which we're not going to go over. I'm going to refer people to his blog, the Thematic Solitaires for the Spare Time Challenged, and you can kind of read some of those. We'll go over a couple of the principles, kind of a little bit later. But this one was a user bot. The user name is TD Canales, and it's basically, and all it is a deck. It's a deck of, I think it's about 24 cards, and you modify the deck based taking certain cards out to adjust difficulty. So, if you want a really hard game, you kind of have a nice thin deck, so it's going to kind of go through the deck immediately. The game ends when the deck is over, basically. So you can modify the difficulty that way. What does the deck do? I'm glad you asked. So the deck it basically has 4 entries, and the 4 entries depict different actions that happen on the board. So if you know Takenoko is this cute game. I have to really resist saying Takenoko, and do like the cute voice because it's so cute. You're moving a panda around, you're moving the gardener around, you're growing bamboo. Eventually you're scoring points based on, what the panda's doing, what the field looks like, all the little hexes and stuff. So then what the card does, it just says there's 4 different actions, and the actions are just really simple, like take an irrigation piece. Okay, good, and throw it out of the game. The bot is not going to use the irrigation piece. He chucks it out. Move the gardener to a yellow. Boom. Or move the panda. Whatever that different actions are. So then on most of the cards, you're going to get a complete an objective, and what happens is every completed objective, he just completes it automatically, which we talked about that where, it's a little bit of that cheater system where they complete an objective or they do a thing and they don't have to pay for it. So they just complete it. So like they don't have the bamboo, they don't have the board condition, they just get the completed objective, they score the points. So what that does, it creates a little bit of a timer where, oh my God, they have 6 completed objectives. I better get on my horse and do this, this, and this. So then you're just doing your stuff. You're going through your actions, and then you pull from the Automa deck, and then eventually, whoever gets to, I think it's 9 completed objectives, you get the little 2-point bonus, and then you score. That's it. That is it. I have to say, I think this bot is excellent. Like, not just good, not just that low bar of learning the game, not just that, this is a pretty good kind of thing. I think this deck is worthy of being included into the base game, with some tweaks and whatever it is. And to make it a true wonderful experience. I really was really, really excited about this deck. What makes this game an Automa, right? So the Automa is a deck, and it's always going to be a deck that replicates player actions. But what makes the couple of principles that make the Automa deck really kind of pop, and Anthony can kind of speak to this because he's played with the Automa with Scythe. I think you've played with Viticulture too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What it does is it doesn't play the game. It replicates the parts of the game that get in your way and make you have to react and do decisions, right? So in Takenoko, what the deck will do is, remove an irrigation piece. Okay, you have 1 less irrigation piece. You can't take that. It will remove a bamboo piece. Oh, that's a bamboo piece that I can't take anymore. It affects my scoring conditions or whatever it is. It doesn't collect bamboo. It doesn't, fulfill scoring. That stuff doesn't matter. Like, that's just bookkeeping on the opponent's side that really you can abstract that out and get rid of it. But it is important that they're completing objectives because there's that timer. When you get to 9, the game is over. So the game has to complete the objectives. It just doesn't have to fulfill the objectives by collecting the bamboo or whatever that is. So what our friend TD Canales was able to do was he was able to really distill, okay, what are those points of opposition? How can I put those into a small deck of 24 cards and, just kind of go with it? And I really do think that he did a terrific job. And I do think that this whole Automa approach is just really the way to go if you can make it work in some of these games.
Yeah, I love the Automa. I think it's, it sometimes takes a little bit more time to kind of wrap your head around. Like in the case of Scythe, that Automa book is, 10 pages, I think, of additional rules because you have all these different movement conditions and the like. But it doesn't actually mean it's complicated. It just means it has more nuance to it than maybe just a straight up variant that's just, putting obstacles in the way. I love the idea of replicating what the other players do without actually having to do any of it for them. Again, playing multi-handed for some of these Euros, making a lot of decisions for multiple things. I'm not actually winning anything. I'm just learning the game. A true, like an actual solitaire game where you're playing by yourself and the game, pushes back against you in ways that make sense and replicate what it's like to play against other people. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's different, right? So like my point with the cheater bot was I know the let's say it's going back to 7 Wonders, the layout is going to be different, so the game is going to play out differently because of a different layout, but you kind of know what the cheater bot is going to do every time. You can kind of look at it and say, okay, I'm going to block him here, I'm going to let her have this, and it just kind of like, it's a very different way of approaching it, but you're than the basic game, but you're approaching it the same way once you kind of do it over and over again. The Automa, because you're shuffling the deck, it could come out all sorts of different ways. So, you are depending on the cards that you remove, because sometimes you might remove a bunch of Gardener cards, and now that pen is moving all over the place, and you have to kind of deal with it. Or, it's putting out a lot of plots and making just a giant big mess. And like you were describing with Scythe, like it adds kind of these extra rules. Takenoko does the same thing because there's rules about like where to place the hexes when it comes out, or where to move the garden or whatever. But it's kind of because you know the base game, those extra rules are pretty intuitive, so you can pick them up pretty easy. I think that was your experience with Scythe, right?
Oh yeah. Once you have it, you don't really have to reference back to it very often. It all makes perfect sense. It's just a matter of kind of getting it, wrapping your head around it and knowing what needs to be done when it needs to be done. Which I think is great, because then you're not, like you said, it's not the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, definitely. So that's really, that was our tour of different games and how they approach the different variants. We kind of chose 4 different games that had 4 very different solo approaches, so that we can kind of take a survey of, what are the possibilities out there. So 5 Tribes approached it as they really changed the basic game and gave you almost a different game. 7 Wonders has that priority system. 7 Wonders Duel has that kind of more simple cheater bot. And then this Automa approach, which is just its own creature. And I think I like the Automa approach, but I don't dislike the other approach. As a matter of fact, maybe the Automa approach won't work for 7 Wonders Duel. It won't work. I don't know. I'm not a designer. I haven't played with it. But it's gives you a sense of how kind of rich the variety is out there, and how many possibilities there are for getting more life from games that you might not get if you just kind of let them sit on the shelf and follow the player count on the box.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool part, because, yeah, we all have those games that are solo out of the box or designed that way, but we also like other stuff, and we can't always get it out, Like you said with 7 Wonders, that one's a hard one to get out these days, because not everybody's a fan of it. And other people burnt out on it. So it's cool that there's a way to play it at home. So that's definitely a good thing.
All right. That sounds like an episode to me.
All right, guys. So if you're listening to this and you have other games that you think there are fantastic solo variants for that we didn't mention, make sure to hit us up. You can reply to the show notes on boardgamersanonymous.com or on Facebook. Or you could start a thread up on the solo board gaming group on Facebook, and we'll hop in there. There's a lot of good stuff out there. We didn't mention every solo variant we've played, obviously, but there might be a bunch that we've missed or that you feel really deserve some attention. So let us know. We want to share that with everybody out there if we can. Until next time, though, that's going to be everything for this week. Until next week, though, grab a solo game off the shelf and let's make every night game night.
Later, everybody.